What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. Today, we've got another fantasy football mock draft for you back on Fantasy Pros with a 10-team full PPR draft. We've got the 5th pick overall, so right smack dab in the middle of it all. Should be pretty interesting. As far as the roster is concerned, 1 quarterback, 2 RBs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, a flex, and then 5 bench spots. But with that being said, no more need to deep dive into this. Let's get into it. And while we wait, a quick reminder, if you enjoy, hit that like button, subscribe, give us a follow on Twitter at alldaypigskin to continue interacting with us there. And let us hear it in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? We will do our best to answer them all. And keep an eye out for more frequent content as the fantasy season is heating up. That is coming along with our 2022 Fantasy Football Draft Guide. More info on that later. But let's look at these first 4 picks. They are in the book. They are as follows: Jonathan Taylor and Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Cooper Kupp. And I love the way this played out for us because, in my opinion, Cooper Kupp has no business being a top 4 selection when guys like Dalvin Cook and Najee Harris are still available. And yes, Cooper Kupp was amazing last year, but guess what? It's fantasy football, and the name of the game is running backs. When you have a chance to select a top 5 guy at that position, you do so without hesitation. That's what I'm going to do now. Even if Cooper Kupp was available, I'd be going either Dalvin Cook or Najee Harris here. The question is, who do you want to go with? Dalvin Cook, I think, is a guy that has potentially, the better overall kind of upside when you look at total yards. But with Najee Harris, he's a guy that maybe doesn't have as many injury concerns as Dalvin Cook. The only thing that potentially worries me there is if Mitch Trubisky wins out the quarterback competition, some of that rushing upside might decrease. But again, with Dalvin Cook, you pretty much have to handcuff him with Alexander Mattison. So let's take a little bit more of a conservative approach here and go with Najee Harris. Again, I have these guys pretty much right next to each other in my rankings, both top 5 guys. And what I want to see is how lucky we get in the second round, because to me, we have an opportunity to land some absolute studs depending on some of these other picks. So looking at it, after our Najee Harris pick, you see Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams, so 2 more wide receivers. That's currently how I have my top 3 wide receivers ranked, so I agree with that. Then you see Dalvin Cook, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, and then some more pass catchers: Jamar Chase, Stephon Diggs, DeAndre Swift. I was really hoping Swift would fall to us in the second round. I am big on Swift this year. CeeDee Lamb, then Travis Kelce. So you might see Travis Kelce here at the 205 and say, man, that's kind of early. It's a situation where the tight end's probably going towards the end of the second round. But in these 10-team leagues, that's the other thing about this. There's going to be a lot more teams that are top-heavy, so getting a positional advantage, it's a little bit more important. So I understand the selection of Travis Kelce. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to take a tight end here, because I think there's an absolute steal at the running back position. That is Alvin Kamara. I think he isn't, getting him in the second round at this point in time, especially if nothing happens with his, issues during the Pro Bowl and no suspension. To me, this is an absolute steal. I would have him ranked above Leonard Fournette. With Jameis Winston there, I think he's going to be fine. If it wasn't Jameis Winston, then yes, I would be worried about Alvin Kamara. Then I'd be saying he probably shouldn't be picked in the first or in the second round, but that's not the case. So let's go with Kamara here. So right now, immediately, our 1-2 punch of running backs is, I think, just tremendous. And I'm going to quickly look at this draft board here to see how things shaped up. So we saw Mark Andrews, then Leonard Fournette, Josh Allen, the first quarterback off the board, then Tyreek, a run on wide receivers: Tyreek, Debo, Keenan Allen, A.J. Brown, and Javonte Williams there. Javonte Williams honestly has no business being drafted, especially in a 10-team league this early when guys like Aaron Jones are still on the board. Probably even a James Conner, honestly. Somebody like a David Montgomery. I just don't think that Javonte Williams in a running back by committee is somebody that you should be treating as an RB1. And here, this is a guy that I've been in on for a long time this season, especially after the departure of Devontae Adams. And yes, you might say you already have 2 running backs. Go with a wide receiver. Go with a Mike Evans, who that would be my pick if I went wide receiver here. But getting these 3 running backs that I think all have top 5 potential, and again, just showing you my roster, Najee Harris, Alvin Kamara, I think going Aaron Jones here is just way, way, way too tempting. I can't pass that up. I'm big on him. I think he's going to be an absolute stud in PPR this season. So immediately, in my opinion, I have three running backs, that I think are all RB1s, and that is tremendous in terms of positional advantage at the most important position. But now looking at the 4th round, let's see how this thing played out. Mike Evans afterwards makes sense. Kyle Pitts, I would not be drafting Kyle Pitts at that point, especially when Kittle is still available. Then Deontay Johnson, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, T. Higgins, Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman, James Conner, and David Montgomery. Very good value in Conner and Montgomery. So looking at our cheat sheet again, guys that we could go with. There's Ezekiel Elliott. I'm just pointing out names that I like, but Travis Etienne. But it's a situation where we already have all the running backs that we could want. So now turning our attention to either wide receiver or tight end, I'm looking at the tight ends that are available. And the one that I have ranked the highest is George Kittle. I do like Darren Waller, but in my opinion, with Waller, Devontae Adams being there is going to take away a lot of targets from Waller. Hunter Renfrow emerging as well last season. So that's something to consider. DJ Moore also, I think, is going to see less targets with Christian McCaffrey back. So, that's another reason where I'm kind of waiting on the wide receiver position. So let's just go get our positional advantage at tight end. I'm going George Kittle here. And then at wide receiver, we will figure it out here in the 5th round. So right now, quickly looking at the picks after Kittle, you see Cam Akers, DJ Moore, Antonio Gibson. Again, I would be taking Akers much later than this. Be definitely taking Ezekiel Elliott ahead of him. Amari Cooper, Terry McLaurin, Brandon Cooks. I was really hoping Amari Cooper would fall to us, honestly. Same with Terry McLaurin. That doesn't happen, but, oh well. I still think there's plenty of opportunities here to get very good wide receivers, and that's going to be the position I hit next. Looking at quarterbacks, I still think there's going to be quarterbacks galore afterwards, so I'm not worried about it. Here, I'm probably going to go either Chris Godwin or Michael Thomas. The only worry I have with Godwin is that, reports are that he might not be ready for the start of the season coming off his ACL injury. So that does have me a little bit worried. With Alvin Kamara already on our team, taking Michael Thomas is also something that I'm not 100% sure about. So instead here, what I'm going to do is take a wide receiver that I really like. It's going to be a reach. It's for sure going to be, labeled a reach in Allen Robinson. But, maybe we can actually just wait on taking Allen Robinson in the next round. I guess we could gamble on that. So here, go with the higher upside guy in Chris Godwin or Michael Thomas. I do think that, Michael Thomas has the higher upside, and mostly because I think he's going to play when the season starts. So let's go the way of Michael Thomas here. I'm not worried about Jarvis Landry or, any rookie additions to the team. So next, I'm going to go and select, like I promised, Allen Robinson as our number 2 wide receiver. Really, really like that pick there. And now, quickly looking at these, selections in between our picks, because it was kind of rapid fire. After our Michael Thomas pick, you see a kind of a run on quarterbacks. We were considering it, potentially. I guess we could have gone quarterback first, then Allen Robinson. But I'm not too worried. There's really good quarterbacks still on the board. It's usually the position I address last, and we already have like a positional advantage at tight end. And if Michael Thomas plays the entire season, he is a tremendous PPR option. So I can't be too mad about that. Then again, some of these other picks, Chris Godwin. If Chris Godwin plays, at the start of the season, that's a tremendous pick. Patrick Mahomes, Jerry Jeudy, there goes Darren Waller, Sutton, Lamar Jackson, J.K. Dobbins, Juju. Then we went Allen Robinson. Then you see Breece Hall, T.J. Hawkinson, Marquise Brown. I was really hoping Marquise Brown or Mike Williams would fall to us in the 7th round. I would have loved to have one of those guys as our 3rd wide receiver. Doesn't happen, but it's okay. Then you see Joe Burrow and Jalen Hurts. So again, turning our attention to our cheat sheet here. Let's see if there's any quarterbacks that I think are absolute steals right now. No, not really. As far as wide receivers, I really, really like Rashad Bateman. He's still available. I continue to say that I think he is in for a very, very big season without Marquise Brown there. So I'm not going to really hesitate. I'm going to take Rashad Bateman as our third wide receiver. And, I feel really good about that. So now the question is, what do we want to do here with our next pick? Do we address the quarterback position? Do we address the wide receiver position again? You saw Tom Brady, Dak Prescott be drafted, and then some pass catchers in between, Amon-Ra, Elijah Moore, DeAndre Hopkins. Hopkins is tough because he's going to be suspended for 6 games, so there's probably other wide receivers that I take ahead of him. Travis Etienne, very nice value there, but I already had 3 running backs that I felt very, very good about. So now, looking at the wide receivers again, I think we can take kind of a rest there and now go with a quarterback, and a guy that I really like to potentially pair up with Allen Robinson is Matthew Stafford. So let's add him to the team. And, I think he's going to be a top 10 quarterback again. So I like that. And yeah, okay, there was a 95% chance that he'd be available. Yeah, of course, because so many of the teams ahead of us had a quarterback, but that's all right. Some of these other selections, Miles Sanders, Devonta Smith, Adam Thielen, Brendan Ayuk. Then you see a couple tight ends in Goddard, Dalton Schultz, Gabriel Davis, Damian Harris. So we've got 4 more picks to make, and we've gotten to the point where we can just get some really good depth. We can get some high flyers in terms of high upside guys. I'm looking at that list. Some guys that stand out, potentially Russell Gage, depending on what happens again with Chris Godwin. How long is he going to be out for? So we can go and draft Russell Gage. I think that's going to be a decent pick. Some of these rookie wide receivers, Traylon Burks, Drake London. I don't love the quarterback situation with those guys necessarily, so I'm going to give the edge to guys like a Russell Gage or guys like an Allen Lazard. You know how much I like Lazard specifically, kind of potentially to be that new alpha in Green Bay. So we go with Russell Gage here. Yeah, FantasyPros doesn't have him ranked as high as we do, but that's all right. I'm not worried about that. So now we can kind of round out the rest of our roster. We got Russell Gage. Allen Lazard is still available. It's probably going to be called a reach, but I don't really care. I think it's just a really, really good pick, honestly, because our running back position is so deep. So I'm going Lazard here, deep and top heavy, honestly. So I feel good about that. We can honestly draft another quarterback as a depth piece. The reason why so many good pieces are still available is because, again, it's a 10-team league. So when the top 10 quarterbacks are off the board, you have Watson and Wilson and Rodgers as, quote unquote, backups. And that's tremendous value as well. As far as running backs are concerned here, let me see if there's anyone that I kind of want to take a chance on. Not necessarily, not really. Looking at handcuffs, again, nothing to get too excited about. So A.J. Dillon is off the board. So, again, nothing too crazy. The way that I'll probably go with this pick here is I'll go with one of these quarterbacks. I'll just go with high upside. And in terms of high upside, I like a Russell Wilson. I like a Deshaun Watson. I do like a Derek Carr. But I'm just going to go with the guy that I know will give me the highest floor out of all those names that I mentioned. To me, that is Russell Wilson. So let's just add him, being in Denver. It's really interesting. It's a great offense that he has around him. So get that depth piece there. And then adding one more piece, George Kittle, we already have him. Don't really have a backup, so I'm going to just treat this as getting a chance to add a second tight end in case something does happen to George Kittle. And our second tight end, probably going to be Cole Kmet, honestly. That's been a way that I've been going very, very frequently. I think he's going to see a lot of targets. So I'm curious to see the grade that we will get. I really don't mind this team. I think our first 3 picks were absolute slam dunks. I don't agree with a C minus. I think it should be a B. The wide receiver position, that's probably where we're getting dinged a little bit. And I think it'll depend on what happens with Michael Thomas. That'll kind of be the X factor there. But that's why I hit the wide receiver position so hard afterwards, because I knew it could be a potential weakness depending on him. So that's why we got Bateman. That's why we got Gage, Lazard. Then we also have George Kittle as a tight end. That gives you that positional advantage. Matthew Stafford is a quarterback. He's a top 10 guy. Could be a top 5 guy right on the precipice. Same with Russell Wilson. And we got good depth and backups. So I think this is a B roster at the worst case scenario. I think we've got good depth. I think we've got some heavy hitters. So I feel good about it. But hey, let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Do you agree, disagree, along with any other questions you guys might have? Again, if you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe. And we'll see you guys in future videos in the meantime.